Larry and I got married as teenagers and we wanted children. We kept trying to have children and it just didn't look like it was going to happen. And we prayed and it just didn't seem. So after 14 years of marriage, after 7 years, we put in for adoption. And then it took another 7 to get our baby boy. After 14 years, we got our baby boy. He was pretty slim. You ever laid your eyes on him? He was handpicked just for me. He looked just like me. Larry wanted him to look like him, but he didn't. He had them big old brown eyes and them big chubby cheeks just like me. He was the most precious gift that we have ever been given. He brought us so much joy. He was so full of life, you never knew what he was going to do. When we were at church, I fought him every day. As a toddler, he would just be all over the house, and I'm trying to hold him down while his dad's preaching. One Sunday, he said, "Mama, I got to go to the bathroom. Mama, I got to go to the bathroom." He was about 5 years old. We had a packed house. You couldn't even move. He kept on. I finally said, "You better go and you come right back." This is how full of life he was. He stayed going, he stayed going, he stayed going. And I'm thinking, Lord, what's he doing? He stayed going, he stayed going. And after about 20 minutes, he slung up in the side door. His daddy was already preaching. He had a bag of potato chips this time and was grinning from ear to ear. He was so proud of himself. You never knew what he was doing. He brought us so much joy. I am so thankful for adoption, that they did not abort him, that some families saw that he could live and they could give him up. And I'm so thankful that we were the ones that got him. I never would have known what it was like to be a mother if I hadn't had my little baby boy. My little baby boy was the joy of our life. As a toddler, he was wide open, bouncing off the ceilings. When he got in school, he was in trouble because he couldn't be still. And we learned at 6 years old he was severe ADHD. So we battled the school system, and we went to doctors, and they would say give him medicine and, all those things. I didn't want to do. But if it would help him to be able to concentrate in school, we did it. And we did it. And it didn't help much. I seen the little smile leave. I seen sadness appear in his little face after 8 or 9 years old. But we kept on trying to work and do the best we could with the disabilities that he had. But he was smart as a whip, don't get me wrong. Smart as a whip, everybody loved him. You would never know it. He was just bouncing off the walls most of the time. I began to get in a pit of worry. I began to worry what people thought about this and that. Long story short, I'll never forget, I was doing my Bible study, doing the study on believing in God. I think it was Beth Moore's study one morning, and I was worrying. There I go, trying to fix things. There I go with my anxieties. But you've overcome that once now, Diane. Are you going to do it? I did it a lot. His grace is new every morning, though. His mercies are new every morning. And he'd help me get strength, and we'd start fresh again. But that day, I remember that the Lord spoke to my heart, and I was praying over the situation and wanting direction and wanting to know what to do, and just grieved with worry. And the Spirit spoke as loud as thunder to my heart. And it said, if things never get better with Zach, how are you going to respond? I'll never forget that day. He was just a little boy. I'll never forget it. If it never gets any better, how are you going to respond? She started teaching about worry. And this was a nugget that I've held on to, and I want you to hold on to it. She said, did you know that we have made worry an idol? Did you know that when we are in a pit, that our first response should always be the Lord? But what do? We run to the worry. What does the Bible say? When my heart is overwhelmed, I run to the rock that is higher than I. That's where we go for our strength. But she showed me that day how I had made worry my idol. I was not going to my Lord God, but I was going to worry. I overcame that a lot better Did I completely overcome it? No. I'm sorry to say I failed. The flesh fails, doesn't it, guys? It fails. It fails time and time again. As a teenager, my little boy began to try to find things that would calm him down, and he found marijuana. It began he found cigarettes first. I'll never forget when we found him with cigarettes first. Broke my heart because my mother died of lung cancer. And I didn't want him to smoke. But we kept trying to encourage him. And then he found marijuana. And he began to use that. And then, as a teenager, it went to crystal meth. And then it went to cutting himself. His pain was so great that he would cut himself. We went on this journey for many, many years. Then things got a little better. And then he got married. And he had some good years. I know he wasn't completely cured. I know that he was still doing pot, but I didn't think he was doing crystal meth anymore. But his wife decides to divorce him because she has found drugs with him again. And this was in 2017. And he spiraled into deep, deep addiction. We tried to save him. We tried to save him for many years. I was thinking today that this journey started at 15 and it went on for many, many, many years. When that baby came to us, the first night we adopted him, I forgot to share this stone of remembrance with you. The night we brought him home from Montgomery and put him in his little crib in our house. Larry slept in the floor by his crib. He was afraid to leave him. I slept on the couch in the next room. Was afraid he would, I guess, breathe and we'd miss it. And about 2 in the morning, we were exhausted. I heard Larry say, "Diane, come here, come here." And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Come here, you got to see this." And I walked into the baby's nursery, and Larry said, "Do you see it?" And above Zach's crib was a little beam of light. Above his crib. You remember the star that the wise men followed? When I saw that, I said, "Okay, where's the light coming from?" I said, "Where's this light coming from?" We looked out, there was 3 windows. There was not a source for the light to come in. There was not a light from anywhere to shine in that room. But there was a beam of light over our baby's crib. Now, y'all can say we're crazy, but I want you to know this. It was there. We held on to that light all through those years. We held on to that light because we knew that God was present in that home that night when that baby became ours. I felt like he said, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." For me and Larry, he was saying, "This is your son in whom I'm well pleased." He was the light of our life. But addiction got its grip as a teenager, and it was off and on. And I could go into a lot of what happened, but we tried to save him. We brought him into our home in 2017 and 18. We gave him cars. He would sell them. We gave him trucks. He would sell them. We put him in an apartment, and he was letting drug addicts live with him and sell out of the apartment that I was paying for. I don't want to go and drag all this up, but I want you to understand something. It was a journey. It was a pit. It was a horrible pit. I didn't do too good during that time. My heart was so broken. But the things that God did in all that he did and all that would take another night to tell you. But he came on the scene time and time again. But the greatest time that he came on the scene, I prayed for him. He was walking the streets. I prayed for him to get arrested so he would have a time to get off the drugs and have a clear mind. And on December 5th of 2018, we got a phone call from one of my friends that we had prayed together over her granddaughter and my son for 12 years, and her little granddaughter was found dead in jail that morning. Zach was walking the streets at that time. I thought I would die. I thought I would die. I cried and I wailed all day long. And I said, God, if he calls, I didn't know where he was. It was 20-something degrees outside. I said, Larry, if he calls, I'm going to him no matter where he's at. At that time, we were having to do tough love again. Oh, those are hard journeys, guys. Those are hard journeys. But we could not give in to okaying that he was killing himself. We could not give in to that fact that he was killing himself. So we did everything in our power to try to change it, and we could not. And he called, and he said, would you come pick me up? I'm hungry. And I met him, and I took him to get him something to eat. And we got to Walmart. He didn't have a coat on. It was 20-something degrees. I bought him a coat. I bought him some clothes. I bought him a belt. We were trying to buy him a phone. And he had a gun in my car that day as I took him to Walmart, and I about had a hissy fit. He said, I've had to get a gun because I've been robbed so much. I said, Zach, if they pull me over, it's not only you, it's me now. There's a gun in my car with no permit. And I was very upset. And I prayed all the way to Walmart. I prayed for months and months. And when we got into Walmart, as I was buying his clothes and his phone, I looked up, and down the aisle, I had prayed for him to be arrested for days so he would be safe. And there Zach was with handcuffs and the police walking him through Walmart. They arrested him right before my eyes. Why? Because he had a gun with no permit on him. They had patted him down at the door. How often does that happen, guys? Do you see what I mean? God hears the cry. He hears y'all. He delivers in a way that we don't understand sometimes. But Zach went to jail, and he called and wanted us to get him out, and we did not. But the further we went into about 2 weeks, he sounded so much better. When he'd call, he sounded like our Zach. It was so sweet to talk to him. And I'll never forget, January 12th, he called from jail. And when I said hello, he said, hi, Mom. It was different already. He said, I got saved. He said, I got saved. And I knew he did, because that man did not tell you anything that was not, he'd tell you the truth, and sometimes you didn't know the truth. I said, tell me about it. I said, was there a preacher ministering to you? He said, no. He's a personal savior, y'all. He said, it was just me and some guys sharing, talking. I said, do you know how much the Lord loves you now? He said, I'm beginning to. He sat 105 days in jail. It was a good time for us. Our bodies got to rest. Our mind got not to worry. And he got out. That day that he got saved was January 12th. He called me that morning. That night, this is how God begins to work and prepare you for things. He will prepare you for things that you know not of. But I collapsed at the restaurant that night at a birthday party, was taken to the hospital. And it began 3 weeks of me being sick. And the third time they finally found I was throwing up profusely, bucketfuls, couldn't keep anything down. And they came and said, you have a mass the size of a baseball. No, it was a softball. It's attached to your pancreas, your small bile duct, and your lower intestine. We can't deal with you here. You're going to have to go to Birmingham. And they sent us to Birmingham. But y'all, the prayers of the saints availeth much. Yeah. And while I was in the hospital, I felt peace over thinking this could be cancer, but did you know what I came to the conclusion of? Okay, if it is, then my God's able to heal me, or he decides that my time on earth's up. It doesn't matter. You know why? Because I'm in his hands, no matter what happens. But what that taught me was to begin to trust the Lord, no matter what circumstance I was in. And they done exploratory surgery. It was not cancer. They sent me home. They didn't know what it was. In a month, I went back, and he came in there. The doctor said, it's gone. It's gone. This is the doctor that came in and said, I'm doing surgery, and left and came back before my surgery and said, may I pray over you? And he prayed over me before surgery. People over Sand Mountain were praying for me. The Lord healed me, and I know he did. He gave me an opportunity to trust him in a manner I never had before. And I was okay with it. I was at peace, whether I lived, whether I died. I realized that was the Lord. And I've got to hurry, and I'm going to say this. That was the beginning of me to be prepared to trust him forever. On May the 11th, 2019, I find Zach on my porch. He's asleep. He's been out for several days. And I tried to talk to him. I tried to get him to let me get him into recovery. And he shook his head and would not. A little boy had died that morning in Aberfoyle in a motel that everybody knew. And I thought, you know, my sister and I prayed all day after we heard about him dying. That evening at 7, Zach leaves home, and at 9:30 he's dead. They find Zach at the museum in Aberfoyle, outside on the steps. You know what old Aberfoyle Museum used to be? It used to be a church. They found him on the steps of the Aberfoyle Museum. He had stripped out of his clothes. The impact that the drugs had on him at that moment were so vital that he was burning internally so greatly, guys, that he had pulled his clothes off trying to get out. It was so hot. I know that's graphic, but I want you to understand, drugs are not your friend. They are not your parents' friends. They are not your children's friends. They seek to destroy. I had prayed that day that he'd get arrested too. I had prayed that day that he'd get arrested too. So at 10 o'clock, we got a knock at our door. And I had just laid down, and I thought, oh, it's the policeman. In my mind, I thought, I bet they've arrested Zach. And a few minutes later, he comes and gets me, and he says, I got to talk to you, Diane. I said, oh, did they arrest him? I'll never forget it, didn't I? I said, did they arrest him? He said, he's gone. He's gone. I never gave up hope that he would be delivered. Never. Since he was a little boy, at 15 and got on drugs, he was now 32. I never gave up hope. We've got to always hope, guys. We've got to always pray. We've always got to ask God to intervene. Now, whether or not a person allows God to do the work on their life will be their choice, won't it? But what I know in my heart is that God rescued my son that night. I know that now. Yes, drugs took his life, but the Father received his spirit. I know that in my heart. I know that. Sometimes the grip is so great that the destruction of the flesh happens. Did you know that? The destruction of the flesh can take place. But that is God's is God's. He has us in the palm of his hands. We don't know the heart of a person, what they prayed the last minutes of their life doing. But I believe in the sovereignty of God. I believe that his power to save is still just as strong. I wrote a blog that said, when answered prayers are not answered prayers, it didn't turn out like we had prayed for many years. But does God still love us? Oh my goodness. He has walked through this grief with us in so many ways. The miracles he's done in our life in the last 4 years, I could write a book and tell you how good my God has been. He has stood with us in our grief. He has walked this journey with us, and he is still walking this journey today. And I know of other loved ones that has lost their children and loved ones that he's still walking with. Our God is so good, and he loves us with an everlasting love. I shared that story tonight with you that are trying to overcome. Oh, we are cheering you on. We love you and we want you to overcome. There's a better life. And it takes day by day overcoming the flesh through the power of the Holy Spirit and through the power of his word. And he will never leave you or forsake you. He will be with you always, even until the very end of this life. Hand down some things for your children that they can remember good. There wasn't a lot of good I remembered about my father until years later, and I have some good memories now. Let them have stepping stones for their lives, that they remember what Mom and Daddy taught them, that they can carry on. When the trials, troubles of life comes their way and they get in that horrible pit, that they'll know who's going to pull them out. May God bless you.